Hey there, this video already assumes you know what the Puyo Puyo games are. If not, just search it up on YouTube or the like, you'll be informed. Now, Puyo Puyo Fever has introduced a mode to the series aptly named as Fever Mode. Fever Mode introduces a new chaining pattern for characters. Previously in the original series, characters only had about 7 or so unique lines for chaining. Puyo Puyo Fever and other games after that have multiple lines for chaining and using special spells each character uses. They usually have 5. The spells that are used are dependent on how long the chain was. This follows a set pattern which was universal among all characters since 15th anniversary, with some tweaks afterwards. Fever 1 and 2 were the template for this pattern, but they have some quirks that the future games lacked. The spell that would be used at the end was dictated by character types and how many Puyos you pop at the end of your chain. Let's start with Fever 1. It's naturally the simpler of the two. In Fever 1, there are 3 character types, the Amity, Rafina, and Papoy types. Note that this is just what Puyo Nexus calls it. Before I get on that, remember what I mentioned about chain lines and spells? Well, internally, the Fever games consider spells and animations different. In modern Puyo games, the spells and animations the spells are the animations, and therefore used interchangeably. In Fever 1, the spells are done by how long the chain is, but depending on how many Puyos are popped at the end, as I mentioned earlier. The animations can be different depending. Spells are actually a table of what animations can be used. In Fever 1, the chaining spells are the following. 1 to 5 chains result in spell 1, 6 to 7 chains result in spell 2, 8 through 9 chains result in spell 3. Spell 4 and 5 are dependent on character. 10, 11, 13, and 14 chains result in spell 4 for Amity types and Papoy types. However, for Rafina types, 10, 12, and 14 chains result in spell 4. Likewise, spell 5 follows the same pattern. 12 and 15 plus chains are Amity Papoy types, while 11, 13, and 15 plus chains are spell 5 for Rafina types. And the Puyos also are pulled from the table as well. If you pop 4 Puyos at the end of the chain, aka a regular chain, you'll get a certain animation. The other tiers are 5 through 6, 7 through 10, and 11 plus. Again, the spells don't correspond to the animations, which are dependent on Puyos popped in characters. As for the characters themselves, Amity's type patterns are the simplest. Her spell 1 follows 4 Puyos results in animation 1, 5 to 6 Puyos result in animation 2, and 7 plus Puyos result in animation 3. And that's just for spell 1. The rest of the data I took from my test can be... Now, let's use Aro as an example. This regular 3 chain, which popped 4 Puyos at the end, resulted in our first animation, Fire. But here, I pop 5 Puyos and get Ice Storm. And here, I get Thunder, and that's only with spell 1. With spell 2, a 6-7 chain, you can get Ice Storm with only 4 Puyos, and Thunder with 5 or 6. The other quirks of Amity types is that they only have 4 chain lines in a repeater, and for some reason their 12 chain results in a spell 5 scenario, whereas 10, 11, 13, and 14 use spell 4. 15 and beyond uses spell 5. Spell 5 typically results in animation 5, but if you pop more Puyos, it can actually underflow to animation 4. This is especially prevalent in the next character types. Rafina types have 5 chain lines and then a repeater. They also have the most erratic of types. For instance, their spell 1 is 4 to 6 Puyos, animation 1, 7 plus Puyos, animation 2. Simple. Spell 2, again, 4 Puyos, animation 1, 5 to 6 Puyos, animation 2, 7 to 10 Puyos for maybe animation 3, 11 plus Puyos is animation 4. Spell 3 gets weird. 4 Puyos is animation 2, 5 to 6 Puyos is animation 1, 7 to 10 is animation 4, and 11 plus I have not tested, but likely is animation 3. Notice that? Yeah, spell 3 is weird. You can end up with animation 1 even though you were in spell 3. Looky here. And then compare to this. Rafina types also have yet another quirk. Their spells past 10 are inconsistent, flip-flopping until 15. For instance, 10, 12, 14 chains result in spell 4, but 11, 13, and 15 plus chains result in spell 5. The animations are even more interesting. Spell 4 uses animation 3 and 5, and 5 uses 4. However, both spell 4 and 5 will use animation 5 if and only if more than 4 Puyos are popped, meaning no natural chain will result in animation 5. Liddell's animation 5 is Tempesta, but that never occurred because only 4 Puyos were popped. But look at this one. Rafina's animation 5 is played because I popped more than 4 Puyos, or in this extreme case, 11. Lastly, the Rafina types 10 and 11 chains are in a pattern. After every chain line, they say their chain 2 line until the repeater. Let's use Ocean Prince as an example. He says dore dore, which means very nice, multiple times in between. Finally, we have the Papoy types. These characters are a mix of Amity and Rafina's chaining types, having 5 chain lines like them, but they pull most of their spell patterns from Amity types. Papoy types tend to not use the repeaters as much as others. For instance, a 15 chain like this one only used 1 repeater. Amity types use 4 repeaters. Look at this one. That ends the Fever 1 section. I should note, I actually don't have the exact values for some other chains, and testing them is such a hassle considering that you have to build up the chains and then do a Hellfire chain, which could be extraordinarily difficult. So, if any of the animations are labeled incorrectly, then that's why. Well, if you thought Fever 1 was a doozy, then Fever 2 just might be the death of you. Sorta. Fever 2 follows the same system, but it somewhat unifies it, with the spells being very close together, notoriously so. 1 to 3 chains result in spell 1, 4 and 5 chains result in spell 2, 6 and 7 chains result in spell 3, 8 through 10 chains result in spell 4, and 11 plus chains result in spell 5. There's also the immense amount of character types as well. Amity and Rafina keep their types, but Papoy loses his status as a playable character. The game introduces new character types of Dapper Bones and You, and uniquely the Sig and Strange Clue types, whom the former pulls most values and patterns from the Dapper Bones type. Characters in Fever 2 all have unused voice clips, which were originally empty animation slots in Fever 1. This complicates things even more, because some characters share a type but have different animation slots as a result. As a general consensus, Amity and Rafina types use nearly the same exact values, except Rafina types are more prone to underflowing at higher chains, and their quirks mentioned earlier such as the 10-chain quirk. The U type seems to be nearly identical to Fever 1 Amity's type, just in Fever 2's style. Her and Amity are the only types with 4 chain lines. It should be noted that they have an unused 5th chain line. For instance, Amity's 5th chain line is "Junbi okay," which roughly means "I'm ready." Since every 4-chain character has a 5th chain line, it might have been intended that everyone was going to have 5 chain lines. Dapper Bones seems to be the replacement for the Papoy type, having 5 chain lines and hardly using repeaters, but having the same or more or less spell patterns as Amity's. Back to Sig again, it seems that he really just has Dapper Bones type, but his unused spell is in a different spot, so he's a special case. Strange Clue uses most of Rafina's data, but he's unique. Higher chains cause him to use his chain 5 line, Cardinal, which isn't his repeater. There's also a ton of weird niches with them, and a lot of the differences between the character types are just like underflows, and it can be more inconvenient than Fever 1. The PSP port of this game, which is already notorious for being a buggy mess, possibly has a completely different chaining system. Amity got her spell 1 from a 7 chain, which Rafina types that is possible in Puyo Puyo Fever 1. This is Fever 2, and a complete different chaining system as well. 7 chains in this game are spell 3s. The only possible spell 3s Amity can have are her Explosion and Fairy Fair. Well, that brings me to the end of this video. Like I said, the chaining system of these games are surprisingly intricate and, quite frankly, needlessly complex. But, on the other hand, it shows how much thought were put into these games. The modern system is far easier to understand, but it's interesting to think if this system were in today's Puyo games. Big thanks to Puyo Nexus for a lot of the info and image sources, and this nifty program, which I'll link in the description. Feel free to test if I got any of my info wrong. Well then, have a nice day, and thank you for watching!